Hello there my awesome dudes and dudettes, I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Jico here, and today, in celebration of the release of patch 5 and the new custom and non-normal difficulty options, I'm super excited to share the 11 most overpowered features in the game. And trust me, these are game changers. I've labeled them things because they're a mixed bag of mechanics, items, skills and builds, and just a heads up, I'm steering clear of any cheesy tactics or exploits in this rundown. So no barrelmancy, pushing enemies out of cliffs, or infinite stealthy archer shenanigans here. Quick spoiler alert, while I won't spill anything major story-wise, I will be showcasing these OP elements in some crucial Act 2 and Act 3 boss battles. I've loosely ranked these things from very OP to slightly less OP, but remember, it's not a direct comparison as they are all unique in their own right. That being said, let's start with some crazy overpowered skills. The first skill in the list is Perilous stakes, not surprising anyone. If you have used this skill, you know why it is completely busted. When I first read the description, I assumed it would just work on allies, but when I found out that you can cast on every single enemy, it just blew my mind. I believe that when Larian created this skill, they were thinking more about a team member lifesteal buff than an enemy debuff, but the latter is by far the best way to use this ability. It simply doubles all the damage the target takes and quadruples the damage if the target has any resistances, right? Because the target gets vulnerable. And it has a pretty good save DC as well, because it uses your spell casting DC. As you can see in the footage, Will had a 100% chance of applying the debuff to the guard, which is pretty weird. I'm not complaining in this case, but I do think this elite power is a bit too strong as it stands. Honestly, I hope Larian would nerf this skill just a bit, because it can make several boss battles trivial. Maybe having to choose what type of damage the target becomes vulnerable to could be a good idea. Next in the list is the one and only Divine Smite. At this point, I imagine everybody knows about how powerful paladins and specifically smites can be. But I want to discuss two elements that make Divine Smite especially deadly. The first one is that you do not spend a spell slot if you miss. Yeah, you heard it right. You do not spend a spell slot if you miss. You can actually toggle this ability and choose whether to apply it or not after you've dealt the hilt. This is just crazy. If you fire a guiding bolt, which is a great ability by the way, and miss, you lose a spell slot. Simple as that, it just makes sense. But not for smites. It basically does not matter how you play, with smites you will always be efficient with your spell slots. And the second point is that smites are a full crit. That means that you will deal double the damage of a regular smite on a crit. That can mean up to 10d8 extra damage from the smite. In BG3, differently than on Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous for example, most of the damage modifiers do not double on crit, such as your strength multiplier. Only the weapon dice rolls will double. That is why smites doubling as well are so strong. Next on the list is the Luck of the Far Realms. On a game where the odds have a major impact on the outcome of your battles, having a basically on-demand crit is absolutely busted. I know it is just once per long rest, but still, there are plenty of supplies in this game available for resting at every important fight, and having one crit per character is just amazing. I take this with every single character and build I play, because it is extremely useful even for casters. Sorcerers can use this for chromatic orbs, and clerics for guiding bolt, for example. This skill, as you have been seeing on the footage, can more often than not decide a fight in the first round. And don't get me started on the combination of this skill with smite, it's just incredible. So let's take a look at all of these three skills, plus a couple other OP things in action in a fight against Merkel. Okay, so to start off the fight, you can see that I have haste applied because I drank a potion of speed. And now I'm trying to see if my parallel stakes will stick. As you can see, I have a pretty high chance of success, 60%, a little bit above average, so hopefully it will stick. And it does. Very, very good. Gained Arcane Synergy from my helmet because I applied a condition. And now I'm gonna just smack the hell out of Merkel. Critical hit because I applied Luck of the Far Realms, and you can see 94 damage from my crit smite, right? I used a level 4 spell slot, another one. And now level 3 spell slot, almost dead, just a finishing attack. And I didn't even need to use a third spell slot here, I think a second one would suffice, but Merkel is dead. If you're enjoying the video so far, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this coming soon. The channel is brand new, so it would mean the world to me. Now back to the good stuff. Next on the list we will cover some items, starting with the speedy potions. As I mentioned, my character on the last clip was buffed with haste, which is one of the best buffs in the entire game. The best thing is that Baldur's Gate 3 makes it extremely convenient to have haste on at all important moments from the start of the game. with one amazing consumable, speedy potions. Not only this item is very abundant in chests and vendors, it also does not require concentration to keep the buff on, and we all know that concentration is a very valuable resource. Also, the buff lasting only 3 turns might seem like a problem first, but it is not. 3 turns are actually more than enough to end most of the fights in the game, especially when you're hasted, so you most likely won't have to deal with the lethargic debuff afterwards. Next on the list is the Bloodlust Elixir. In general, this is the best elixir in the game. Not only the buff you get from it is crazy strong, but it also lasts until long rest. But there is one extra reason why this elixir is so amazing: the type of fights there are in the game. Baldur's Gate 3 is a very hard game to balance for numerous reasons. By the way, let me know in the comments if you would like me to do a video about it. But a strategy that Larian used to balance most of the fights is to add a lot of weaker enemies instead of making 1 or 2 super powerful ones. That is why the Elixir of Bloodlust is amazing. In several fights it will make it free or even beneficial to eliminate weaker foes. Like in this clip I'm showing here, where Karlach is using basically half an attack to dispatch a minor enemy and getting a full action in return. Just amazing. Now let's move on from items and get into the builds. As I mentioned previously, I won't be covering full-fledged builds in this video because there's simply not enough time. But I will be sharing some ideas and pets that can make characters absurdly strong, such as the 3 attacks casters. As far as I know, the only class that can get 3 attacks at level 12 in D&D 5th edition is the Fighter, and the Fighter is really strong because of that. But in Baldur's Gate 3, the extra attacks from the Deepened Pact of the Pact of the Blade for Warlocks stacks with other extra attacks, which means that at level 10 you can get a caster that has 3 attacks per action even before fighters get their 3rd attack. This is amazingly powerful, especially for Paladin and Warlock multi-classes, where you can potentially throw out all of your spell slots through smites in just 1 turn if you're using the proper buffs. Now, maybe even stronger than the 3 attacks casters is the extra attack full casters. There's only one class that has both full spell progression as well as an extra attack, the Valor or Swords Bard. Probably 2 of the best features of leveling in this game are getting new spells and extra attacks. The fact that you can have both is crazy. I just finished a playthrough with a level 10 Swords Bard and a level 2 Paladin build, as you have seen in some of the clips, and it just wrecks everything. I had access to 2 attacks per action, level 6 spells and flourishes, besides being a very charming person and proficient in several skills. The downside of the Bard usually is that it doesn't get the best spells, if you do not consider the Magical Secrets feature. So I combined my Bard with the Paladin for the smites, and if you don't want to do that, there is another way to make great use of your spell slots as well, because of the next item of this list. Next up our list is the Open Scroll Learning. Another thing that differs in BG3 compared to D&D 5th edition is that in BG3, wizards can learn scrolls of any level at any moment, assuming you have the coin and the scrolls for it. This means that if you're a level 11 bard and level 1 wizard, you will have access to all level 6 wizard spells. This is completely broken, because even if you don't have a lot of intelligence to boost your spell save DC, you can still memorize and cast amazing wizard supporting spells, such as Globe of Invulnerability and Conjure Elemental. Of course, you also have access to the Warp Headband of Intellect to memorize more spells and increase their DC if you want to have both Charisma and Intelligence high, for example. I just did a healer support build, which was 6 Swords Bard, 5 Cleric and 1 Wizard, which had 2 attacks per action, full spell casting, and access to the most important Cleric and Wizard spells. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see a video on that build. Learning level 6 spells from scrolls by dipping into Wizard allows from some pretty crazy builds. So next on the list is the Lightning Sorcerer Wizard Storm Cleric combination, and this is by far the strongest build in terms of unleashing all of your power in one round and completely destroying the fight before it even starts. With this build, you can cast 4 maximized Chain Lightnings in 1 turn and 2 regular Chain Lightnings if you really want to min-max using Haste and Elixir of Bloodlust. If the enemies are vulnerable to lightning, by being wet for example, and fail their saving throw, you can deal up to 720 damage just considering the maximized Chain Lightnings. To give some perspective, one of the hardest bosses in the game has 666 HP. That means that if you're a bit lucky, you can kill the boss in 1 turn just with this build, besides killing everyone else in the fight as well probably. Now let's get to some broken mechanics. Baldur's Gate 3 is not an extremely hard game once you understand some of the mechanics, but in my first playthrough I was constantly getting downed by enemies, especially in Act 1, the hardest act by far in my opinion. and I would almost always start the fight all over again if I got 1 or 2 party members downed. But then I realized that getting down is very far away from actually losing the fight in Baldur's Gate 3, since you can help your team members an unlimited amount of time, and there are several bonus actions that can bring your allies back, and even AoE bonus action heals starting at level 5. Nowadays I barely heal my party, I just let some people get down and then bring them back up. If you are not outnumbered in a fight, it is common to get into an infinite loop where you can literally not lose the game, as you can see here in my fight with Mintara. Now that we have a custom difficulty option, I wish that Larian would introduce an option for us to limit the amount of times allies can be helped from the down position to avoid this kind of exploit and an infinite cycle where you just revive your characters all over again. The last OP thing in our list is the vendor pickpocketing. In Baldur's Gate 3, with a proper setup, you can basically steal everything you want from every single vendor in the game. I love the freedom that Larian gives us on their games, but sometimes I think it goes so far that it makes some elements of the game lose their purpose, such as money and items in Baldur's Gate 3. I wish that some stores would work as the Adventurer Mart in Baldur's Gate 2, where it was literally impossible to steal anything. So you would have to work to get money for those amazing vendor items such as the Armor of Persistence and the Hood of the Weave. And there you go, guys, those are the 11 most OP things in Baldur's Gate 3 in my opinion. Now let's take a look at some honorable mentions. First one on the list is the Marco Hash Cure. I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce that. If you know, please comment and I'll try my best next time, but this is the best staff in the game by far. It allows you to cast a Chain Lightning once per short rest, besides a lot of other buffs. The second item is Darkness Spell. Enemies just get super confused by this, very useful to help with your pickpocketing as well. The third one is the Black Hole Spell, especially as a bonus action in your main character. It is slow enemies and allow repositioning, and it can also be cast 5 times in a row in a single battle. That's just completely busted. Last but not least, Minor Illusion. Enemies are just very intrigued by it, so it's a bit cheesy, but it can be extremely helpful to reposition enemies before a fight. So there you go, 11 things that are completely busted in Baldur's Gate 3. So thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know in the comments what I am forgetting and what videos you would like to see next. As I said, this is a brand new channel, so I would really appreciate your like and subscription if you would consider to do that. Thank you so much and see you next.